Father, it's Clarice. What happened? It happened again. This time, it's her mother. I'll be right there. When did this happen? Around midnight. Where is she? Clarice, focus on my voice. May her soul rest in peace. Father, what will we do about Clarice? Clarice McCarrick was the only child of Ralph and Elliot McCarrick. She was a polite, shy young girl, but her life changed that one night. It was a Wednesday evening. The small community of Colebrook had gone to the local house of worship for a gathering, and so had the McCarricks. Ralph and Father Eldred were close friends, and it was after the sermon that they got talking. All alone, Clarice had wandered off to the backyard of the house of worship. When she realized there was an old graveyard, just a walk into the woods. It was later that night, when Ralph and Elliot were to return home. They realized Clarice wasn't with them. She wasn't in the house, she wasn't outside. Panicked, the parents called for a search. And it was much later that they found Clarice in the graveyard, sleeping beside a grave. Relieved, but also worried to have found their daughter in a place like this, Ralph and Elliot said their prayers and brought her back home. For the next few days, Elliot constantly checked Clarice's health, concerned to see she had gotten a slight fever. Fortunately, she recovered. But it was soon after that Elliot began to notice strange things about her daughter. It was in the middle of the night. Elliot woke up hearing a creaking noise from Clarice's room. When she stepped inside, she found Clarice idly sitting on her bed. "Clarice, what are you doing in the dark?" Elliot could hear her daughter murmuring something. "Clarice, what are you saying?" "I can hear his voice. He's close to me." Frightened by her words, Elliot whispered the Lord's Prayer as she neared him. But just as she placed her hands on her, Clarice suddenly fell unconscious. Elliot was afraid lest this be a consequence of that night. So she prayed to the Lord to protect her. But over the following days, Elliot began to witness stranger things. It was one evening, she found Clarice standing by the oak tree in the backyard. It had gotten dark, and the girl simply stood there. "Clarice, let's go inside." "Sie wird dem sein. Sie wird dem sein." "Clarice?" As Clarice repeated the words as if in a trance, one of her maids trembled as she stepped back. "Madam, she's speaking in German." "What? How could she be?" "She's saying, She will be damned." As the maid ran off in fear, Elliot turned Clarice around. "Clarice, get in your senses." "Get away from me, duhu nafao." Elliot was horrified when she heard Clarice speak in a completely different voice. And suddenly she became aggressive. "Ralph! Ralph!" It was only when Ralph had assisted her that they were able to calm down their daughter and take her inside. You think something terrible has happened to her? Pray to the Lord, let's hope not. After that day, Elliot cleaned Clarice's room, brought in many holy herbs like sage and myrtle to repel any evil. But the minute she brought them in, she was shocked to see Clarice begin to scream. "Take it away from me! It hurts! It hurts!" "Clarice, this is for your own good. Take it away!" Seeing Clarice begin to squirm on her bed, twisting her body, Elliot was horrified. She left all the things out and rushed to hold her daughter, and to much surprise, Clarice was calm and quiet once again. From then on, she tried her best to keep Clarice calm. But it was early one dawn when she walked into her room. She found Clarice standing by the balcony, her dress drenched in blood. "Clarice, what has happened with you?" But the minute she ran out, Elliot was abhorred to see what Clarice had done. There on the balcony lay lifeless one of their cats in a horrific condition. "Clarice, how can you do such a thing?" "Ralph, this can't go on. She needs help. I'll take her to Father Eldred tonight." It was a long night in which Clarice refused to cooperate with them, not wanting to be near him. But alas, Father Eldred was able to subdue her. Since the treatment, the parents were relieved to see Clarice getting better. "Clarice, what are you doing?" Ralph woke up to a loud noise from Clarice's room, but the relief didn't last long. When one night, and discovered she had taken the life of her mother. It was in the middle of the night that he called Father Eldred again, who arranged for an overnight burial and kept the matter a secret. He performed many cleansings on the house and continued to treat Clarice, and fortunately, in time, Clarice's condition had improved. The years passed, and now and then, sometimes bad things occurred, but Father Eldred would subdue the evil in her again. Almost 11 years later, Clarice went off to college. Where she met a young man, Edwin, and they started dating. Everything was going fine. And every semester break, Clarice would visit back home. But it was during these good times, one summer break, her father passed away from his deteriorating health, leaving Clarice all alone. "Your father left all his property and wealth to you, Clarice, but since you were unwell, He was unable to trust you and made Father Eldred Shelby as a trustee over it. Without his consent, you won't be able to sell the property or spend the wealth. There couldn't be a better person. Father Eldred is a good man. After my father, it's Father Eldred who has been a guardian to me. But now Clarice felt so alone in the mansion. The only person she spoke with was Edwin. And when he heard what happened, he traveled to Colebrook to meet her. His arrival gave Clarice a sense of relief, but she still felt upset. Edwin, there's a house of worship nearby. Let's go there. At this hour, it's past 8. My mother's grave is there. I want to visit her. Edwin and Clarice drove out to the house of worship. By the time they reached, it had started to rain. The house was closed. No one came here anymore, nor did many people visit the graveyard. Clarice took Edwin around the house and into the woods to her mother's grave. Wow, this place is old. This used to be open back when I was young, but something strange happened to me here. What? Edwin turned to look at Clarice, standing still, looking out into the woods. Without a word, without a movement. Clarice, are you okay? Through the howling winds and the pouring rain, staring at the lifeless body of her boyfriend, Clarice rushed out to the car and called Father Eldred. Father! What's wrong, Clarice? Father, it happened again. What? How? Where are you? I brought a friend of mine to visit Mother's grave. What? Why would you go there? You know what happened. You made yourself vulnerable again. Stay outside. I'm coming. That night, Father Eldred drove out to the old house of worship to find Clarice standing by the gate. Where is he? He followed Clarice through the woods, where he was frightened to see the young man's body. In tears, Clarice said, "Now what will happen, Father?" How did this happen? I don't know. I lost my senses, and when I woke up, I found him like this. Don't worry, you're like my daughter. It wasn't you. It was the demon in you that has done this. Father Eldred stooped down to inspect the body, when suddenly he felt a heavy hit on his head. He fell to the ground, looking at Clarice. Clarice? Clarice suddenly started to laugh. You're such a foolish man. In the moment of truth, Father Eldred finally came to realize you were never possessed. It took you 11 years to realize. From a very young age, Clarice McCarrick had a sickly, sadistic nature that she kept to herself. And as she grew up, she realized she was an adopted child. Her parents tried to nurture their morals and lessons into her, but Clarice couldn't overcome that strange urge. That night, when she was found sleeping by the grave, she noticed everyone was treating her differently, assuming there was something ominous about the matter. So Clarice began toying with her parents' fears, pretending as if she were possessed. She intentionally deepened her voice, spoke in different languages, and behaved aggressively when they tried to bring holy things near her. Enjoying seeing them in fright. How foolishly they believed in it all. But it was that one night, when Clarice had gotten scratched by the house cat. She fell into a rage. She took the animal, slitting every portion of its body like it had scratched her. But this time, when her mother found out, it had confirmed her belief that Clarice was truly possessed. And her parents called Father Eldred, who too believed and legitimized her act. But it was some days later, while Clarice was in her room getting ready for another one of her pranks, her mother walked in. "Clarice, what are you doing?" Clarice immediately went into her act. But Elliot had seen through it all. "You wicked girl. Stop behaving like this. You've been faking it this entire time. You even fooled me, but now I know your games. You're not possessed. You learned German from that maid. You've been putting on this act." Elliot turned off the candles and walked towards the balcony. "Stop this nonsense and close this balcony. It's raining outside." Caught in her games, it was at that very moment. In a rage, Clarice had pushed her mother off the balcony. And by the time her father came to her room, she once again pretended that she had done so in a state of possession. Since that night, Clarice was careful not to get caught. However, every now and then she did, but Father Eldred gullibly believed it was the demons. And so Clarice grew up in her fun and games, and soon went off to college and was enjoying her life. But when she returned on her break, her father wasn't too happy to see her. "How was college?" "Well, Father." "Really? How much longer will you lie to me? I know you dropped out. I sent people to check up on you. I tried to contact you, but you were having all the wrong kinds of fun on my money. And you know what? You don't have to go back anymore, because I'm not going to pay for this." Clarice was furious. If her father was going to be an obstacle for her, she would get rid of him. Everyone thought Ralph McCarrick had passed away naturally due to a sickness. But the truth was, Clarice had tampered with his medication. Knowing he was diabetic and had a weak heart, Clarice changed his medicines with glucogen, which increased his blood sugar to dangerous levels, triggering a heart failure. But it was after his death that Clarice found out he had made Father Eldred the trustee to all his wealth and property. So Clarice started to plan how she would get rid of him. That's when she invited her boyfriend Edwin. Edwin had a crush on Clarice for the longest time. And the only reason Clarice had started dating him was so she could use him for her benefits. And that night at the graveyard, she did just that. "Clarice, are you okay?" "Edwin, do you love me?" "Of course I do." "How much?" "I can give my life for you." So Clarice took his life in cold blood. "Thank you for gladly giving me your life." Now with Father Eldred's death, Clarice could go on with her plan. She picked up a heavy stone. She would have to make this believable before she called the police. "Help! I need help!" They're dead. What happened here? Father Eldred called me to the church to discuss something important. He's the trustee to my father's wealth and a close family friend, so without giving it any thought, I arrived. But that's when I realized the only reason he called me was because he wanted to take my life, so he could claim full possession of my father's property. But Father Eldred wasn't aware I would bring along my boyfriend. When he tried to attack me, my boyfriend fought him back. And in the process, I got injured, but they both died. Don't worry, everything's going to be alright. Take this young woman to safety.
Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.